Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, and today joining me is Shekhar Iyer I. We're going to be talking about the Odisha train tragedy, especially about the technology of Kavach. What could have happened? Was it functional? Was it not functional? Could it have helped? Could it not have helped? A lot of questions in people's minds. Shekhar ji has done a fair amount of research, and he's going to share with us his thoughts on how Kavach works, how it is intended to work, and what might have gone wrong in this case. Again, the details are still preliminary, so please wait until more official news comes from the government. But at least at this point of time, we will explain to you what we know thus far. Shekhar ji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar, Shekhar ji.
Shekhar ji, so talk to us a little bit about the Kavach technology. Is it deployed all over India? Is it just a limited deployment? And if it was deployed, what could it have prevented this? A lot of questions in people's mind. We'll start from the basics. What exactly is Kavach? And then you take it from there, sir.
Well, Shekhar ji, tonight as we speak, our heart goes out to these families who have lost their loved ones and to more than 1,000 people who have been injured in this accident. They are being treated at hospitals in Kavach, Balasore, Bhadrak, some of them taken to Bhubaneswar also. And indeed, it's a very one of the worst train disasters that India has faced. Last such a train accident of this magnitude was in '99. After that, it has happened. And over the years, indeed, the safety record has been improving for various reasons because they have been paying attention to track renewal, they have been paying attention to track upgradation. There have been introduction of welded rails, so that to prevent removal of fish plates. And also the advanced signaling system that has been gradually taking over our network. And as we all know, Indian Railways is one of the largest rail networks of the world. And considering that day and night, thousands of trains, keep chugging along through these systems and bearing for this kind of incident, which has come as a complete shock. It has been fairly a service that has been seeing upgradation, improvement, and also the quality of coaches. Earlier there used to be those ICF manufactured coaches. Then they brought in is LHB. LHB are supposed to, they won't turn over. They are supposed to, climb over, that kind of thing. So there has been improvement, but at the same, and also the bigger thing that has been happened is a lot of places, the signaling system that have come is to allow least, the manual operation, more automatic operation with fail-safe, inbuilt technology to prevent that it doesn't get sabotaged or it doesn't get or it fails. Now, other biggest reason for most of the rail accidents in India was these unmanned railway crossings and also manned railway crossings. Now, what has happened is all the manned level crossings, almost out of 17,000 manned crossings, we have 11,000 which have been interlocked with signals. So automatically it is red means the manned thing always closes. Unlike in the US, you find there is a long bell before the gates close, and I've seen in the YouTube videos how there is a long bell ringing for a long time to warn the motorists to stay away. But here the whole problem has been unmanned. Gradually, many of the unmanned are getting converted to manned ones, and manned ones are being those stretches are being removed by having a subway or the build a overbridge, so that even as the speed of the trains are increased, the safety is not compromised. And people, today's, with this almost, the figure is coming close to 300 people. I mean, today, as we speak, it is 288 and about 1,000 injured, some of them very grievously. And as we speak of these figures, the question that is coming is, what about Kavach? Mamata Banerjee, a former railway minister in the under Vajpayee, she said, in my time, I had already approved anti-collision device. You people had not done anything. Uh, forgetting that the kind of system that was talked about and the kind of system that has been finally approved, patented, indigenously developed, given to three firms, and we saw the railway minister himself travel in a particular section that is under South Central Railway. And in fact, the South Central Railway has been given the first provision. I mean, they are developing about 1,465 kilometers, which will have this Kavach system. Now, Kavach system is essentially installing a technology both in the locomotives as well as in the signaling system, which prevents the if a train is being approached by another train, the automatically it cuts down the speed, and it can even apply brakes without the driver's intervention, or even if the driver is not alert. Now, therefore, the big question that comes is, could this system prevented an accident like this? What has happened between 6:50 p.m. and 7:10 p.m. In this place called Bahanga Station in Balasore district of Odisha? I think we have heard a lot of railway experts tonight saying that no, it could not have been possible, because what we'll have to understand what happened at Bahanga Bazaar. You see, every station, smaller stations where big trains, I mean, these important trains don't stop, they have these loop lines. So if there is a train running in the front of, say, a super express, it's a goods train or a slow moving passenger, or a passenger train that stops more often. So in that case, these trains are diverted to the nearest loop, or the in the available section, mostly near railway station, and and those loop sections are closed. I mean, closed means basically a switch puts the track back, so that a train moving on the main line straight away goes on the main line. Now in Bahanga also, the Bahanga station, there were two loops. So there were two goods trains, and they were one was moving in the up direction, another was the down direction. Now this particular line connects Howrah, that is Kolkata, and Chennai. This is a very important line because it takes all traffic, both freight and passenger traffic, from Kolkata to Chennai and Chennai to Kolkata through the coastal districts of Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, and finally Tamil Nadu. So it connects a whole lot of rich hinterland where agriculture produce, industrial produce are constantly busy, because the freight cars are also, a lot of cars move up and down. Now it's a very normal operation that happens throughout the day and night. The slow moving trains make way for the super expresses. Now in this particular case, Coromandel is considered one of the most prestigious trains under the Southeastern Railway, which operates this section. Now in this particular case, there is a Coromandel Express which is coming from Shalimar, which is close to Howrah, and moving towards Madras Central, and the assistant station master directs it towards a loop line. I mean, there is a freight train or a goods train in the front of the Coromandel that is directed to a loop line, in the up loop line, and the signal shows green to the main line, but actually the track there has not closed, and the track is uh, still open for another train to go, and that's what exactly happened. So the Coromandel, which is running at a speed of 130 kilometers per hour, gets into the loop line instead of it should have proceeded along the main line. Once it gets into the line, it hits the, I mean, it crashes into the freight cars, and then a number of coaches fall into the main line. And not only the main line of the up line, I mean of the upper main line, it also falls on the down line. And few minutes, there is another train coming in the same direction with almost the same speed, which is the Yesvantpur-Howrah Express coming from Bangalore. And the impact is such that train also derails us, and there is a complete chaos. So the preliminary inquiries show that signal system failed. If they have allowed a loop line, a train to move to the line and close, why were the signals showing always green? Because if the lines don't close, then automatically the signals turn red. All trains stop if there is some problem. But in this particular case, it kept showing green. This is the preliminary inquiry. There could be possibly other reasons, there could be possibly other things. So the fundamental question is, of course, nobody has yet talked of, the people are still asking question, is it a human error? Is it error on the part of the assistant station master who allowed the two trains on the same track? Or is it some technical glitch? Did the signaling system, in the railway parlance, it is called route relay interlocking system. In the sense, once a route is interlocked, then only the main line is open. Otherwise, it is automatically closes, and there are several built-in safety. If one signal fails, the other signals will turn red. I mean, stop all the trains. But in this case, that did not happen. The up line was also open, green, but the loop line was open. On the other side, the down line too kept showing green. For the simple reason, there is no way they could know at that hour in the darkness that some coaches have fallen on the down line.
Sir, one important question for my clarification, and maybe some of our viewers also have this question. Now, the Coromandel Express train driver is thinking that he's going on the main line. Whereas, so because he sees a green on the main line, so he is going due, and the goods train has taken a bypass and it is sitting in the cord line. I'm just visualizing it. So this is the main line, this is the cord line, and the goods train is sitting here. Now this guy sees a green, so he's just going forward because business as usual. Unfortunately, what has happened is the place where the switch happens between the main and the cord, that place something went wrong. Therefore, instead of going like this, he went like this behind the coach, the goods train, and that collision happened. When that collision happened at full speed, then some of the train tracks jumped, and some of them ended up falling on the oncoming line. Right? Am I correct in assuming what happened?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly happened. Because the in today's signaling system, the driver, particularly in the night, heavily relies on the signaling system because of this interlocking thing. I mean, it cannot be, that the signals are not supposed to show green if the route is not clear. So the driver presumes that all those the loop lines have been closed. Only the main line is open. But in this particular case, the main line was closed and the train moved on the loop line. And this happens throughout the day. I mean, the slow moving trains are shifted to the loop line and they are made to wait. When we travel, we have seen, our train is moving if we are sitting on, if you are traveling in a mail or express train in India particularly, you can see that slow moving passenger train is waiting in the loop line. And only after, or if we are in a slow moving train and there is a super fast express, and you would find that you are made to wait that other train passes. This is something that has been happening. Earlier it was done more manually, but this time these are all interlocked. So for say 100 kilometers, all those stations relay the locking system. So once they know that main line a train is approaching, constantly the other slow moving trains on the same route are sent to the loop lines. And once the train passes, again the loop line is open. The train waiting in the loop line joins the main line. This is a system, and they have been upgrading this technology. Now, Kavach should have helped in a situation where, I mean, if there's something is moving on the main line and there is a train now coming from opposite side. In fact, Ashwini Vaishnaw, the railway minister, last year sat in that stretch which I mentioned of South Central Railway, and he sat in a train which was moving at 60 kilometers per hour. There was another train on the same track which was coming at 60 kilometers per hour to test the system. And they found automatically both the trains equipped with Kavach, their speed was cut down to 30 and brakes started applying, which alerted the drivers on both sides to completely, bring the train to halt. So the Kavach works, but Kavach cannot detect the failure of the signals. They can see an object coming because they are built-in radars which can automatically activate the braking system, but they cannot detect a signaling system. If a signal somewhere has turned green, the technology doesn't have that kind of a brain or if I can use the term, a neurocenter to detect that somewhere along the tracks have not been closed and the signaling is there. At least this particular technology does not deal with it. So obviously everybody is in a state of shock. How this could have happened? So there is an element of human error. Whether does it involve the assistant station master level, or does it involve the maintenance people? Did the signals were not properly maintained? It's not possible because this is one of the busiest sections. So some of the busiest sections are actually those the quadrilateral routes, whether it is Delhi, Howrah, Delhi, Bombay, or Bombay, Chennai, Delhi, or even these ones which run across also, like say Mumbai, Howrah, or say Chennai, of course, I mentioned Chennai, Bombay also. So some of these major routes, And some of these routes, they are so heavy in the sense, in between four freight trains, you have two superfast trains going. So all the time, they try to, and some of the freight trains are also superfast trains. They are also allowed to overtake, if they are carrying perishable goods, like you have those green trains which carry farm produce. Those trains are given super clearance. So obviously something has gone wrong. And at this moment, uh, nobody is yet saying, excepting a former railway minister, Dinesh Chaturvedi. He says, he mentions a particular incident of 99, over which Nitish Kumar resigned. He says in that, subsequent inquiry did not rule out sabotage. So he also feels the inquiry should not rule out this angle, because he feels there is something strange about what has happened. Because he feels that signals don't fail normally and the tracks get automatically locked. Because earlier it used to be manually done. You have seen, gangmen, waiting for the train to pass, then they lock the tracks with their push of a lever. That these are now done automatically. So therefore, he has voiced a suspicion. Of course, he says, "I'm not saying it has happened, but it can't be ruled out." But sir, the Prime Minister's statement. He is the first Prime Minister to visit a train crash site. Many railway board members tell me, former tell me, never before a Prime Minister visited a crash site. Though several accidents have happened in the over 70 years, no railway Prime Minister has visited a crash site. Prime Minister reached by a chopper to that spot, actually went to that place, and after that he went to the Balasore hospital where he saw the people who are undergoing treatment. And his remark, his statement, that those who are guilty will not be spared, that is being seen with a lot of seriousness. What is the meaning of Prime Minister's statement? Have the intelligence agencies given him extra briefing, or is there already some preliminary suspicion as to what has happened? And the Prime Minister's biggest, I can say, it is a political upset, because when he became Prime Minister, he said railways was a top priority because he wanted to show that one area where you can show a ease of living. Actually, he wanted all train journeys to be a kind of an experience, because in India train journeys have always meant, dhakka dhakki, getting pushed in the air, no reservation, then you have the bribing the TTs. Those are slowly becoming thing of the past. If you really travel, plan your travel in advance, and you don't have to go to the railway station to stand in queue to buy a ticket, something we have done in our childhood and boyhood. Our parents would make us stand in the queue. Sir, I remember I grew up in Kolkata. If we had to travel to south, that booking booth at Fairley Place East, near Esplanade in Kolkata, the window would open around 8 o'clock. Can you believe people used to go the previous night and sleep on the pavement so that they can get up around 7 and stand in the queue? The similar queues I have seen before Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai, where the queue opens at 7 and people are let in at 8, so people come and sleep on as part of the queue. And I've seen this because my father used to send me and said, "You wait there." By the time I reach there, and we used to book ticket to travel from Howrah to Chennai. Now those are days of the past. Today you have, and also you have the Tatkal scheme. So many things have happened, so many improvements, and also the quality of coaches. Bio toilets have been introduced. So many things have happened, and the fact that the Vande Express, now there are more than 15 Vande Bharat trains. So obviously today there is a glee in opposition. They are happy that somewhere, this has put a big break to these this highly publicized events where the Prime Minister launches Vande Bharat. So they are already saying that, look, the priorities were towards the elite. Priority was towards running these big trains, not on safety, which I think is factually not true. Because the biggest scourge railways has faced is funds. Of course, questions are being asked. Railway doesn't even have a separate budget. That reason was different, because that is accommodated in the main finance budget. The practice which was followed since the British time, that has been done away with. That is more for budgeting reasons, not for compromising on railway safety, or treating railway as a secondary. But in terms of projects, in terms of higher capacity, higher locomotives that can, whose haulage power is more, lot of things are happening. But we are a resource crunch country, and the government has to balance between so many things. Sir, for a long time, track renewal was never taken up. Politically, new lines would be sanctioned, half work would be done. just to please the constituency. MP would put pressure, wanted to get a survey done. They would spend 400 crores or 500 crores on a survey. And by the time the line, they would put a foundation stone, it would years, to have a linkage. But these days, you find first thing that the Prime Minister did in 2014 was to ensure completion of pending projects which were lines which were not completed for 30 years, they have been completed. Gauge conversion. Now today you have all over the country there is a broad gauge. Previously you had to switch trains, you reach Madras Central, and then go to Egmore and take a train if you are going south. But today from Delhi you can reach Madurai, Trichy, wherever. To give an example. So a lot of things have happened. But at the same time, safety is a very, very important issue, and people are indeed shocked. And they are asking this question: has safety been compromised because attention is on these so-called luxury elite trains?
Couple of things I want to add to what you said, Shekharji. This is personal experience. We are using Indian Railways to freight. P. Gurus does use it, and it is amazing. I can only tell you one word, because we cannot predict demand of when our products will be in demand, and our warehouse is in Mumbai and our production is in Delhi. One time we were in such a crunch that there was no other option. The only thing that came through was railways. And I was blown away because the cost wasn't that much, but the thing got delivered and we made our deadlines. And so what you said, sir, is absolutely true. These days, there's the traffic freight movement is amazing. And viewers, if you happen to visit Hyderabad or Secunderabad, or if you happen to be living there, do go to this museum called IRISET, IRISET, Indian Railways Institute of Signals, Electronics and Telecommunication, if I'm correct. They have a museum where they show you all the signaling stuff, where how was it under British rule, how things improved step by step. It's a fascinating journey, especially when you have children. Do take them to this museum. It's not very crowded. You can go in there and you can watch all this stuff. There are people who give you guided demonstrations also. This used to be the case 30 years ago. I'm not sure if it's still true or not. But IRISET Museum, don't miss it, because people need to understand how much technology goes into running and maintaining trains. So I just thought I'll put that word in. So Kavach may or may not have been deployed in this case, but it did not make a difference as far as because the malfunctioning is somewhere else. Now, the sabotage angle that is being put out, like what you said about the statement that Prime Minister made, where does one start picking up the threads? Because you said that the station master did everything right, except the signals went wrong. So, I mean, where would they start looking for clues that would clue into what could have happened?
Well, they will look into the signaling log because these are all highly computerized. They would show at what time the signals allowed the loop line to open, what time the loop line was closed. And apart from looking at the computerized record of the signaling, they would also examine the signaling system very physically also. Now, and third thing, they would look at the tracks. What is the kind of damage that has happened? Whether those damages have happened because of the collision or the impact of collision, or whether something else has happened. Because some of the slide you just showed looks like some dislocation could have taken. They could be due to collision or anything else. One does not know. But the idea is to do a very physical examination. Besides that, they would look at those mangled coaches, what kind of impact they have taken, what was the speed in which the train was traveling. That would be available from the computerized logos of the locomotives as to what power they were carrying, and also the journey before the part of the journey before the train reached here, of both the trains, whether all norms were followed in allowing the trains to come. Because today there is a story, sir, in one of the news outlets, that if the Yesvantpur-Howrah Express had it been late by say few minutes, even 5 minutes, it would have passed before Coromandel. So it could have been, it would not have been so bad. Of course, passengers traveling in the Coromandel would have been definitely, they would have faced the worst. But at least the impact on the other train, which was on the down line, that would not have happened. So the investigators, and incidentally, we have a system. The Commission of Rail Safety is not under the Railway Ministry. Contrary to many people are questioning, will it be independent? Will it not be subject to the same? No. The Commission of Rail Safety is an organization which is under the Civil Aviation Ministry, which is the controlling ministry. So the Commissioner of Rail Safety is free to call people, to examine witnesses. They will also be recording the passengers who traveled in the train. On the basis of the passenger manifest they have, they would invite them to give them the sequence as to how they experienced this whole collision. Did they hear some noises? What was happening? So a lot would be taken, and also they will get they'll also talk to other railway experts, because several experts would visit the spot. So it's going to be an ongoing exercise which will take some time, but there will be a time, a deadline set for the report to come, and on the basis further things would happen. Because I remember, sir, the 99, the Nitish Kumar thing, when there was an accident and 290 lives were lost in a place called that place was called Ghaisal in Assam.
We seem to have momentarily lost Shekharji. He'll join back in just a moment. Request to like this program as well as to subscribe to our channel. What we have been finding is that 1 in 2 of you are still not subscribing to our channel. Perhaps you are checking it out to see if it is worth your time. We hope to make it worth your time. Not only that, we hope to make our channel your go-to for reliable, factual information. So a request again to all of you that who have not still subscribe to our channel to subscribe to our channel. And if you happen to be following it on your cell phone, most likely you are. 9 out of 10 are consuming the content on your cell phone. There'll be a bell notification. You have to click on that bell. Only then you get notification. This is something it's still unclear to me. Shekharji has rejoined again, and here we go. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So there was one accident in which happened in Bihar when Nitish Kumar was railway minister and Rabdi Devi was chief minister of Bihar, where it was initially suspected that Naxalites had, sabotaged, and the accident took place. But then, for political reasons or whatever, Nitish Kumar as a railway minister did not acknowledge that, though the police investigations were pointing to that, because that particular area was Naxalite infested. And Rabdi Devi also denied, any role of there could not have been a sabotage. It's purely an accident, and it was blamed on a human factor of whatever human factor they thought. But but in this case, I think the very fact that the prime minister went to the spot, he would definitely would not let the investigation to be, take any particular direction. Then examine all direction, examine all evidences, and I would not be surprised if some more other agencies are also put on the job. I would not be, because, for instance, look at it, this particular incident, which should worry us. A few days ago in Kerala, you had a train that runs between Alapura and Kozhikode express train, where there was a person who threw acid at a family, and then finally was caught from Delhi and taken by NIA took over the investigation. As the same train, when it had reached a place, I think close to Kozhikode or so, one of the coaches caught fire. When it was, of course, the people had emptied out, people were not there in the coaches, but it caught fire, the same train. So it raised doubt as to who is behind this. Is there some groups working on this? Because nothing can cause a bad name to the government than a disaster like this. I mean, these are all loud thinking, or it could be purely for the reasons we are seeing. Of course, at the moment, there are no clues, there are no indication. So none of us would want to, make any speculation as to what could have happened. But the available facts and more facts could open up as the investigation progresses. Shreyas.
Thank you so much, Shekharji. Now let us take a look at the political aspect of it. We talked about Nitish Kumar resigning. We also had Lal Bahadur Shastri resigning in the 50s because of the Ariyalur accident. Shekharji, there is how many actually took moral responsibility and resigned, and how many tried to time this resignation because there was an election just around the corner? Can you please help us understand this, sir?
So the first of the moral responsibility instance of moral responsibility was Lal Bahadur Shastri. He was railway minister under Nehru, and in 1956, November of 1956, in Ariyalur, the train accident happened, in which in those days it was 142 people were killed. and he resigned. He quickly resigned, and because it was a shocking incident, and Nehru lauded Lal Bahadur Shastri. But I think a couple of years later, he was back in the ministry. He was handling other thing. So that is one. After that, we saw Nitish Kumar quitting in August '99. After that Gaisal accident in which claimed 219 lives. But he also came back after some time as an agriculture minister. And then the third case is people are mentioning Mamata. Mamata threatened to resign not for accidents, because as a constituent of NDA, Trinamool Congress was having problems over several things and usual are bargaining tactics with Atalji. So when the fuel prices were raised, prices of petrol and diesel and kerosene were raised, she made that an issue. And I remember attending a rally in Kolkata, in the heart of Kolkata, and she made an announcement from the public rally that we will not tolerate this price hike. So I am quitting as railway minister, which is nothing to do with accident. Then immediately I saw a telephone call coming to her, and it was President's, Prime Minister, yeah, Atalji's close aide, Sudhindra Kulkarni, who spoke to her and told her that Vajpayee is requesting you not to resign, and that was the end of it. Though subsequently she resigned on another issue, which is on the coffin gate, when George Fernandez party was accused of making money on coffins which were made for the Kargil soldiers and things like that, which was a sting operation. Then she resigned, saying that in protest against that. That was a different thing. Then in 2016, when there were one or two accidents, Suresh Prabhu under Modi government, he was the railway minister, and he was also involved in the modernization of railways. And he wanted to quit because he found that lot of criticism. Then I think in 2017 there were again two accidents which happened in the gap of within 4 days. So he quit, and of course Modi asked him to continue. There were, I think it was Kaifiyat Express and Utkal Express. There were two trains that the accident took place in a gap of 4 days, and then he stepped down. Of course, there was another case of moral responsibility under P.V. Narasimha when Madhavrao Sindhya was civil aviation minister. And Madhavrao Sindhya was being seen as a prime ministerial face, and some magazines had also put him on cover. But he quit. That was the time when Indian Airlines was running short of aircraft. That time they used to take on wet lease Romanian aircraft, or sometimes Russian aircraft. Many of these East European aircraft were available on wet lease, and they were brought here, and they were flown by the pilots of those nationalities who are not very familiar with our airports. So one such, I remember a case that was in '92. There was a Tu-154 which belly landed in Delhi airport. For some other reason, that's what most people say, Madhavrao Sindhya took moral responsibility, resigned. And Narasimha Rao promptly forwarded the resignation letter to Rashtrapati Bhavan. You may please to accept it. That had more to do with the political battles going on inside the Narasimha Rao's cabinet, because the question that it was said was that in July 1988, 100 people had died when the train fell into that river in Kerala, I think Bharatapura. And under Rajiv Gandhi, he stayed on. He did not accept moral responsibility for that particular train accident. Then I am told in August '91 also, after he had become minister, a plane crash took place in Imphal, where it was on way to Imphal. That all time also he resigned. But in '92, when there was a growing tension between Narasimha Rao and Madhavrao Sindhya, he resigned. Of course, in the case of Rajiv Gandhi, but even in this case, when he left Narasimha Rao's government owning moral, 2 years he came back as an HRD minister. So this owning moral responsibility is a very grand, it's a grand standing. But many ministries have come back after a gap. So, but at this moment, I think Prime Minister would not want to relieve Ashwini Vaishnaw of his responsibility, because he has a very, very important task going. This modernization, and he being a technocrat. And incidentally, he belonged to the Odisha cadre. Though he hails from Rajasthan, he's Odisha cadre, and he made his mark in the 99 super cyclone when he was an IAS officer, particularly with his relief operation when that super cyclone claimed many lives, hundreds of lives in Odisha. So he has served in this very district where the accident took place, Balasore, Kavach. He has served in those areas. So I don't think Prime Minister would want to relieve him. I mean, he would not, even if he were to make an offer. I don't think Prime Minister would leave him. But opposition, Mamata herself did not resign, and if when she wanted to resign, that was also on petrol hike. But her party today is saying that he should accept responsibility and go. Similarly, Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray, they are saying, "Itna bada hadsa ho gaya, such a big thing has happened, but this railway minister is not resigning." So there is already full politics. I think there will be more politics. Congress today took a very highly moralistic stand. Today, there are several questions in our mind, but we will not ask any questions today. Tomorrow, they will ask questions.
Sir, this news about Madhavara Sindhya also throwing his hat in for the prime ministerial post during the Rao regime is news to me, because I thought that Rao had three competitors. One was, of course, Sonia Gandhi sitting behind and pulling the levers. The other was Sharad Pawar, and the third one was Arjun Singh. If you remember, the Babri Masjid press release was delayed so that Arjun Singh could also come into that one meeting where they decided that they'll dismiss all the BJP government, blah, blah, blah. And he wanted to make sure, Rao wanted to make sure that this decision was taken when everybody was present there, so that nobody can then later say that I was not part of this decision. See, there are so much. I'm just amazed at the Chanakyata of P.V. Narasimha. He managed so many horses, all of them still managing to ride forward. I mean, hats off to that man. He was something else. So thanks for drawing that inference there. Now, whether he resigns or not, the life has to go on. From this, I'm sure they'll review all the safety procedures and other things. I think, Shekharji, the railway safety has always been pretty good, decent in the recent past. I haven't seen any problems. And India needs to be doing this thing more and more, because in a day, only 24 hours are there. That has not changed. Technology has sped up, but the time you have available on hand hasn't changed. So trying to move people at a lower cost at the same kind of time as an airport airline travel does make sense. Do you see this becoming a political issue in the 2024 election, that the Modi government was not very good at safety? Because see, if somebody is sabotaging, another accident is just something that can be made to happen. India has the biggest railway network in the whole world. Remember this, guys, biggest railway network in the whole world. And also, I might tell you, advanced country like United States, they had this chemical spillage in a town, and they had to actually evacuate the town. They couldn't solve the problem immediately. See, what I'm trying to say is, when things go wrong on a railway line, they go wrong in a spectacular way. Your thoughts, sir? Will this become a poll issue?
Sir, it will be made into a poll issue, because there's such a big, huge death toll. The figures could still go up. Suppose it climbs to say 350 plus. I mean, I'm just hazarding a guess. Because today itself you found Mamata Banerjee at the spot. She is the chief minister of the neighboring state. She comes there and says, "My figures are 500 people are dead," in front of the railway minister who is present there. He corrected her and said, "Look, the figures, the bodies that have been recovered, they have been done by the Odisha government. The state government figures are, at that point of time, it was 280 or something." He said, "This is the figure we have." Because there's no point in causing panic. But she did not hesitate to cause panic. I'm trying to say that there are more people dead, and the government is trying to suppress, forgetting that she is in the neighboring state, which is ruled not by BJP, by BJD, by a person like Naveen Patnaik. If there are so many people dead, his government would not going to suppress it. Because this is not railways trying to suppress, because the bodies have to be carried and they have to go to the local hospital, and their postmortem will have to be done, their identity is established. But Mamata did that, and he had to correct her. Now, so what is happening is, opposition has been fearing, that prime ministers move to introduce these trains like Vande Bharat, which have become very popular. In fact, there is a heavy booking on almost all the routes, and the plan is to by August of this year. He was initial idea was to have 75 Vande Bharats, and eventually, in a year or two, they will have 200 such Vande Bharats, which are the new class of trains. After Shatabdi was introduced, and long ago Indira Gandhi's time, you had the Rajdhani, which used to run between Delhi, and subsequently Rajdhanis were extended to between all state capitals and in New Delhi. And Vande Bharat is a completely new generation train, and there are plans to have Vande Bharat metros in a distance covering say 100 200 kilometers. Then they are also working on design and manufacture of what is called the Vande Bharat sleeper trains. They are going to be highly modernized trains that could be compared with some of the best luxury kind of facilities you have in Japan or in Europe or in America. So the idea is to give more value for money to the passenger and keep the passenger comfort in mind, as well as speed. All these factors are being, and particularly the way the Vande Bharat was indigenously designed, and people are giving a lot of credit to the ICF and particularly to that general manager, Mani, who himself has been on television this evening on several channels explaining, say, how the Kavach could not have, this is a completely different thing. And like all railway officers, he too was surprised and shocked that how a super fast train could enter a loop where a freight train was waiting. So there is a lot of, yeah, but what the opposition is trying to show is, because they want to play again the poor card. Look, we are for the poor people. It is the poor people who have died, because incidentally the first three coaches that suffered the maximum damage in the Coromandel, they were all unreserved coaches. They took the brunt of this collision with the freight train, and also falling on the main line and being hit by the oncoming the Howrah bound train from Bangalore. So they are already, they want a narrative to show that Modi cares only for the rich, who are the only ones who are patronizing these trains like Vande Bharat. That attempt is being made. I would expect Congress to go full hog on this. But the fact is, the middle class, the growing middle class, whether it is lower middle class or upper middle class or middle class, they are all looking for more comfort in the train.
Yes, indeed. And now let's take a few questions. One second, sir. Question, please. Yeah, Pawan Kishore wants to know, Shekharji, a debate is wide open on why we need Vande Bharat trains or bullet trains while we have poor system to avoid accidents. While the system's well improved in the recent times, what are your thoughts?
Now, along with introduction of Vande Bharat trains, the safety systems are also being upgraded. Without a foolproof safety system, you cannot introduce these trains. Whether it is a bullet train or whether it's Vande Bharat, these trains require advanced technology, advanced signaling. The idea is, in fact, to run these trains already they have upgraded at many places. In some places, they have to improve the condition of the tracks. That's why I talked of introducing welded trains, welded rails. Similarly, for bullet train, which is a dedicated corridor between Ahmedabad and Mumbai, the work is going on. Land acquisition has been already done in Gujarat side. Now it has picked up in Maharashtra side. And that also, whenever you get a latest technology, it spawns more ancillary industries. And definitely the technology you bring for a one class of train, they will get passed over to the other system that is already in place. And one cannot close our eyes to technology. We are not living in Cuba, where we say, okay, we take great pride in, running, traveling those old vintage cars or things like that. I mean, that can make up for a good postcard, a picture postcard if you're on a holiday, not if the country vast like ours. Because the technology also means you are going for new, you have to also think of, you can no longer depend on fossil fuels. So today, the electrification is almost close to 88%. The major routes are all electrified. That is why our commitment at the Paris Climate Conference, that included a big commitment on the railway side, that they would cut down on haulage by diesel locomotives, which spew out so a lot of those carbon gases. So The commitment requires that we shift to safer technology, and also to, our concerns over the climatic the pollution. So technology cannot be avoided. And if you want technology, you have to invest in technology. You have to also invest in indigenous research, which is what this government has sought to do.
Next question, please. Bangalore Subramaniam Srinivasan wants to know. Thanks for the information regarding Iriset Museum. Where is it located? If you know where the place called Rail Nilayam is in Secunderabad, you have to go from the railway station towards Uppal, about 2 to 3 kilometers. Tarnaka Junction is where the Iriset is. There's a That's all area is all owned by the railways, so it's very close to the railway station, Secunderabad railway station. Maya Jagannathan wants to know, Sri Iyer, with the railway chemical spill in Delaware, the Transportation Secretary of US, did he resign? No, I don't think so, Maya. Nobody resigned. In fact, they were busy evacuating. And for the last couple of months, a carpet has been thrown over it. I don't even know what is happening. US is becoming just as bad as any third world democracy or banana republic. They also keep the press out of many of the bad things that are happening. So that's just for your information. Next question, please. Ruben Loganathan wants to know, hope next time Mr. Shekhar sees any minister, tell them to make the media unit do work professionally or get out and be replaced by others. Ministers don't have the option of keeping quiet anymore. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, the ministers are the face of the government. So anything goes wrong, they have to accept responsibility, and they have to. But at the same time, our system is such: you have ministers, you have bureaucrats, you have technocrats, and fixing responsibility is something in the Indian system, right from the British days, has been, they call it collective responsibility, which collectively nobody is responsible. So that system has been undergoing changes. With first instance, one of the things the Modi government did was to tame the railway board. Railway board was so powerful during the previous regime. They were considered such a problem because, and there was always a talk of nexus between some elements of the railway board and the political bosses. Sir, I remember the case of Jafar Sharif. When he took over railway minister, the buzzword in the rail bhavan was, when the first day he was briefed about, what is happening in the railways, what are the ongoing projects, he asked them to provide a list. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but it is said of Jafar Sharif, he asked them to give a list of projects. Then he got somebody to draw a column. He said, what is the cost of this project? They mentioned. Then against that, he put, what is the 10% of that you write down on the other side. So
Sir,
that is a kind of thing that used to be said of a period when railway ministers, those who were given the jobs, were the primary function was to resource mobilization, not for railways, for who you know.
Sir, before he became minister, before he became a politician, he was the driver of a very influential politician. You want to walk us down memory lane on that?
Yes, he was the driver for Nijalingappa, and we are talking of the period 68, 69. When Indira Gandhi was having problem with the Congress syndicate, with all those old guards. They thought she would be Gungi Gudiya, she would be a doll, she would be a puppet. But she had her own plans, and of course, you saw that presidential election when she put up VV Giri as a candidate, when the Congress Working Committee had decided on Neeraj
Sanjeev
Sanjeeva
Reddy.
Reddy.
Yes.
So at that time when she was splitting, she used to get lot of secrets from people like Jafar Sharif. Used to come and tell them what the leaders were discussing while they were traveling with the Nijalingappa. And you remember, sir, there was another leader, Shankar Dayal Sharma.
Yes.
Indira Gandhi elevated him to vice president, then made him president also. He
Yes.
was also a minister there. He was known as the treasurer in those days. He too used to come with very vital information. And you had that unique situation where the Congress Working Committee expelled their own prime minister, and the prime minister went and formed their own party.
A lot of interesting stuff. Next question, please. Vidyut Kargutkar wants to know, is there an official relief fund set up?
Well, there is the Prime Minister's relief fund, from which the compensations have been announced for all those who have died. They will get 10 lakhs, the next of kin, and similarly those who are injured. Some figures Odisha government has also announced. Mamata Banerjee has announced for people who have been killed from her state. She is announcing 5 lakhs extra. So the I don't see money being issue, but then money cannot make up for the loss of the dear ones, loved ones. Of course, those who are injured, because one of the first things that the Prime Minister did on reaching the accident site today, he was seen picking up his mobile phone and calling up the Cabinet Secretary and the Health Minister, Mansukh Mandavia, to rush medical teams to Odisha, to rush medicines, to, probably he felt there is a shortage of medical personnel to handle the, over 1,000 people who are having who are being treated for injuries in all these hospitals, these district hospitals.
Next question, please. Rahul Rathod wants to know, railways have greatly improved safety, but this one is unfortunate. There are reports that Vande Bharat trains are special designed to avoid casualties during this type of incidents. Your views?
Well, these coaches they incorporate the latest technology, and they are made of aluminum body. They're lighter, but they are stronger. But at the same time, this particular problem, where a signal malfunctioning, where a system can detect signal being malfunctioned, and the route not being locked, particularly the what is called the interlocking, the interlocking relay. I mean, the word used is route relay interlocking system, because in fact today the railway minister was saying in his brief interaction with the media, we will have to ensure that this kind of things don't recur or do not happen again. So that would require getting it, to the bottom of all this. What was it? What failed? Whether the signaling failed, whether the locking failed, or if the locking failed. Because, sir, one thing, sir, all technologies, your computer can hang, unless, of course, it's an Apple, which may hang not that often as any other Windows system.
No,
So,
when Apple hangs, it hangs spectacularly.
so when we are, technology driven, depend on technology, whatever is created by man can fail, and whatever not created by man can also fail. So therefore, they will have to get down to this, because this is a serious thing that has happened, where the tracks were not closed, but the signal showed green. I mean, this is uh, this is a very, very shocking aspect of the disaster that has come. But we'll have to find out, why did the Prime Minister say that सख्त से सख्त कार्रवाई होगी, that strictest action will be taken. I think those who are found guilty, or those who are responsible, which I think probably the Prime Minister sees a lot of human angle, or the human element being involved in this disaster. We do not know as yet, but definitely I expect the government to take this matter seriously and take it to a logical end, because Prime Minister Modi just cannot allow this kind of incidents again. And in a year, we are headed, not just because of elections, but the point is, when he is keen to bring modern technology, modern trains, safety has to be an important element, and there can be no compromises on this. Though opposition is saying you froze recruitment, people who used to manually do the job. Railways have gone technology. I mean, with the technology, you don't need so many hands. Of course, there is a lot of work that requires manual work. Track laying of tracks, laying of new tracks, replacing tracks, or all those requires a lot of manual labor. That will be there. But at the same time, railways have been paying huge. There a lot of the chunk of that bill, that was the biggest problem. They pay more towards salaries and pension, rather than on technology upgradation.
Deva Karthik wants to know, is there any plan for guarding the tracks by railways or sabotaging the tracks becomes new normal? Is it so complicated?
So, well, sir, wherever sensitive areas, sensitive borders, Naxalite areas, or insurgent infected areas, where they always you have a railway protection force, which is a paramilitary force by law, traveling on trains, so as well as guarding some stretches with regular patrolling. But it is impossible to, we have thousands of kilometer length of railway line. It's not possible to put, guard all the tracks everywhere. It's not possible. But a lot of intelligence is also gathered as to which are the areas. Like, sir, but look at this. When the Vande Bharat was introduced, lot of these trains, new trains, got stoned. The glasses were damaged. One would wonder, what kind of people are those who want to throw stones and damage at something. Is it some way of showing some anger, or is it some way of some frustration in some sections of the society? These are the questions that comes to mind.
Sir, if you ask me, I'm reminded of the crabs in the well existence. The opposition cannot match the performance and vision of Modi. So they try and take pot shots, like, for example, throwing eggs or stones at the new technology called Vande Bharat, because they feel like whatever it is that they were trying to do, it that becoming harder and harder, and therefore try to. This is a very cheap, childish way to do this thing. But people somehow, the opposition especially, they don't seem to have pride that this is my country and something good is happening for me, because they also benefit from this. It's not like railway says if you are a TMC member, you are not going to be allowed to travel on the railways, right? So this is so childish when some things like this happen. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Pawan Kishore wants to know: Western media misinterpret and misrepresent and report that in 2021 there were about 18,000 rail accidents and around 16,000 deaths, indicating national crime record. The accident number looks to be bloated. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, I do not think these figures are correct. I do not know which section of the Western media has reported such. Those figures are available. I mean, they have those figures were laid in Parliament also. They are on public domain, and I do not think these figures are correct.
Next question, please. And that brings us to a close of today's session with Shekhar Iyer ji. Please share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Shekhar ji, always a pleasure having you. We'll be back again on Wednesday with Shekhar ji, but that will be a morning time program, and we will give you more updates over the course of the next few days. Thank you once again, Shekhar ji. Namaskar.
Namaskar.